Caught in the Act Unfaithful, Season 3, Episode 7 and 8. So, Episode 7 starts with us meeting Trey. Trey basically said that his parents separated when he was like 2 years old, but his grandparents have been together for like 30 or 40 years. So, he always looked at his grandparents as an example and something that he wants to follow rather than what his parents did. So basically, he's like, every time a relationship go through something, I don't feel like we need to look elsewhere. I feel like you need to try to stick it out with your partner. So he also tells us how he has a friend named Streets who he started managing. Streets is a rapper. And he just put his all into investing in Streets because he really believed in him and he felt like he could make it. He said for now, he kind of put the managing Streets music career on hold and he started an exotic rental company because he has like 4 exotic cars. I think he said he had a Ferrari, a McLaren, a Bentley, and a Lamborghini. So he's here because he's questioning his current relationship that he has with Alicia, who he started dating back in 2021. He basically said he has this yearly pool party at his apartment complex, and I guess everybody kind of knows about it. So Alicia must know somebody else in his building, and she ended up at the pool party. Streets, his artist, also lives in the same apartment complex. So he basically said when he first met Alicia, she was kind of standoffish when he was trying to talk to her at the party because they didn't really know each other. But she ended up falling in the pool, and the pool was like 7 or 8 feet deep, and she can't swim. He ended up jumping in and saving her from drowning and saving the day. So after that, she started entertaining him. And obviously, he had some money. He said, once he got a little bit of money, he just kept saving. He learned how to invest so that he could make his money work. Or he used the money to buy things like the cars that he could turn into a business, not just having cars just to be flashy and having a bunch of cars. He said Alicia, on the other hand, she works in a smoke shop right now, and he kind of helps her out a lot financially, takes a lot of the bills off of her back, takes her out to eat, takes her shopping, etc. He said they don't live together right now, but she comes over a lot, and she has a lot of qualities about herself, like being nurturing and loving and cooking and cleaning, that reminds him of his grandmother and the kind of relationship that his grandmother and his grandfather have. And he said they've talked about marriage and kids and everything, and he's willing to do all of that pretty much now, but she wants to take her time, and he said he kind of understands it because there's a 7-year age gap between them. He's 30, she's 23. And he said he's just been noticing little things about her lately. He said that she didn't used to have a passcode on her phone, now she does. And he said whenever she used to come over, she would just leave her phone on the nightstand. Now the phone is like tucked away under the pillow in her bag or something like that. And he said the biggest red flag so far was that one day she said she was going to work. He went to try to bring her some flowers and lunch to be nice. And when he got to her job, the people said she doesn't work today. He said he never really said nothing about it because he just want to catch her in the act if she is doing something. I guess he it's no point in me having a conversation with her about it so she could lie. And then I'll just think I'm tripping or overthinking. I just need to see the proof in the pudding. Is it something or is it not before I move forward with her? So Tammy lets him know we're going to put cameras in your house since you said she comes over a lot. Sometimes he leaves her in the house while he's at work and stuff. So they'll just see what she's doing while she's in his house alone. And then they'll also have the surveillance team tracking her, probably sitting outside her house and just following her around wherever she goes for the next couple of days. So the next day, the investigator follows her to her job. She does her 8-hour shift at the smoke shop. And he's like, I can't believe you work 8 hours at a smoke shop. Well, somebody got to do it. Some smoke shops be open 24 hours a damn day. It's going to have to either be 4 6-hour shifts or 3 8-hour shifts. So then the investigator follows her back to Trey's apartment complex and she goes in the garage. Now, he doesn't turn all the way into the garage because he obviously don't want her to see him. So when she turned into the garage or parking lot, he stayed out on the street and just picked up the phone and started looking at the monitors into the apartment, thinking that as soon as she got out of the garage, she would go upstairs to the apartment. 2 hours went by and he wasn't seeing any activity in the apartment. And then she walks in. So he's like, where the hell was she for those 2 hours when the only place she could have been was in the garage or somewhere in this apartment complex? You know what I mean? So then Trey came home. She had food ready. They sat there and talked for a little while. And then she was like, okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. And they kissed and she was leaving. So when she left Trey's house, she went straight home. So now the investigator is like, okay, I need to still figure out where was she for those 2 hours when she went into the garage and I didn't see her go straight into the apartment. So the next day they came up with a trick for Trey to tell Alicia, hey, I'm going to have them drop you off this new purse I got you, but the purse is rigged with a camera. And obviously Trey probably told her something like, I want you to wear that purse today so I can see you with it on later. You know how guys are. I bought you something. I want to see you in it that night if I see you. So she takes the purse and they follow her back to Trey's apartment complex. But this time they won't lose her because she has the purse camera. So they end up seeing that she goes into Streets' apartment, which is this guy below, talking about some good morning Streets. And remember, Streets is Trey's artist and friend who he said that he was managing. So they chilling in his apartment. He talking about get comfortable, come in the bedroom with me and relax. And then the surveillance cuts off and we see Tammy, Ken, and Trey meeting up the next day to go over all of the surveillance. So they showing him the surveillance. And at first when he saw about the first day when she was missing for 2 hours, he was confused by it, but he didn't really freak out. I guess he was thinking who knows, maybe she was just sitting in the car for 2 hours or something, whatever. But then the next day when he sees that she went to Street's apartment, once they put the camera on the purse, he was like, yeah, what's going on? And Tammy was like, that's your best friend, right? And he was like, yeah. So Tammy was like, after they went into the bedroom to relax, the time lapse of them coming back out was 30 minutes. And then Alicia was like, all right, I gotta go. I can't be in here too long. And they was laughing. And Trey was kind of being delusional, in my opinion. He was like, Streets is really like my brother. I trust him more than I even trust Alicia, so I'm really not too worried about it. So he asked if there was any more footage, and Tammy said yes. So whatever footage he's about to see is going to be our first time seeing as well, because that's all we had saw. So they ended up having somebody go in the smoke shop, like a decoy, to like talk to Alicia at the counter and walk around the smoke shop to get some conversations that she was having with her coworkers. And she was telling one of her coworkers, like, oh, my man just texted me. And the girl was like, is it Trey? And she was like, no. She was like, this guy gives me quality D, great D. I'm a little bored with Trey's D. He want to keep it the same way every time. He don't want to try nothing new. And Tammy is so stupid. She gonna rub it in like, yeah, because, there's like loser D and then there's like quality D. She was just laughing and shit with her coworker, like, I can't help who I caught feelings for, but it might just be the D. And he like, she really think this is funny. Like, so then Trey sees her go back to Street's house. She has on these booty shorts. He's feeling all up on her butt, smacking her butt, talking about, oh, I need some quality D. And they go back into the room again. So at that point, he really started getting mad and he was like, okay, I done seen enough of this shit. I'm good. He started getting up, like walking out and throwing the mic. So they got him to sit back down and they was like, Alicia is not really for you. And I feel like you got a savior complex for her. The way y'all even met with you having to save her from the drowning. And then you just like take on all her bills and all her finances. Like, that's a savior. And then Streets really ain't your man. Like, he's not your friend. You talking about you trust him more than you trust Alicia. So they asked him, did he want the team up or the takedown? I was kind of worried. I'm like, I hope he don't choose this team up on some bro code shit where he would have went up and talked to Streets first and then they would have confronted Alicia. But I'm glad he chose the takedown. So he just going to catch both of them in the act and address both of them and give both of them the same equal energy. Because just as effed up as she is as your girlfriend, he's effed up too as your best friend, and probably even more effed up because you knew him for so much longer than her. So the next day, the surveillance team has found Streets and Alicia together at the smoke shop that Alicia works at. So Trey, Tammy, and Ken are on their way to confront them. So they get there and Trey sees Streets and Alicia in the smoke shop parking lot, kissing, holding hands. He's still grabbing her butt. So Trey jumps out the van. So Alicia and Streets was very rowdy. Streets was like, what are all these cameras doing here? Alicia started pushing the cameras. Tammy like, oh no, she pushing my cameraman. That shit costs money. Tammy jumped out the car and she was like, who the fuck are you? And Tammy was like, I'll tell you who I am. We caught you on camera. So Tammy told her the purse had a camera in it. We saw you at Street's apartment. She was like, y'all didn't see shit. And Tammy was like, well, we actually did. And she was like, I don't give a fuck. Shut up. Like telling Tammy, shut up. Get out my face. She's a wild one. And she was giving, she ain't know who Tammy was. I'm like, girl, Tammy need to pipe up on that ass and let her know who she is. And when Kim was talking to Streets, he was basically like, well, she's for the streets. So if she came to the streets, what am I supposed to do? And Kim was like, but you should have told your brother. And Streets basically said, well, I thought Trey already knew how she gave it up. I thought he knew she was a hoe. And Streets basically told Ken that he didn't know how serious Trey was about her. Like, he never told him that he was in love with her. He was like, Trey is very secretive about his relationships. So I kind of thought he knew how Alicia was, and he wasn't really taking her that serious either. And Alicia was just mad. She's like, I'm 22, 23. I'm not doing this shit. Basically saying, I'm out here. I'm not about to be tied down to one nigga. And she was like, at the end of the day, y'all fucked up because y'all brought this shit to my job. And Street said he'd been kicking it with Alicia for a whole year, and he has seen her with Trey, but he didn't know that it was that serious. Again, with y'all being best friends, I don't see how a year goes by and you sleeping with this girl and you see your best friend with her as well. Even if you think it's not that serious, why wouldn't y'all just have a conversation as bros? Like, niggas be doing that, but at least let it be known. Like, what if she would have got pregnant? Like, if you're weird. So Alicia was pissed. She was like, I'm going back to work. Trey, you know you just fucked up my job. And then Trey was like, Streets is lying. He did know that me and her was serious. And Kim was like, well, Street said he didn't know and that they've been messing around for over a year. So Tammy followed her inside the smoke shop and she was like, you need to come back outside and talk to me. And Alicia basically was just like, she's young. And at the end of the day, she was trying to play the shit out. She was trying to be on her city girl shit. She was like, I'm young. I don't know who I want. And I was trying to get what I wanted and get all my needs met. Trey helps me financially and he's caring and loving, but Streets gives me the quality D. And she was like, Trey is boring. Streets talking about he been knowing Trey since like 7th grade. His mom calls Trey her son. He has 7 sisters and Trey was always like a brother to him and a son to his mom, obviously. So it's like, okay, so was all of this worth our friendship? That's what Trey said to him. And Alicia is just got an effed up mindset. She talking about she seeing her mom in multiple relationships and just getting done dirty. So in her mind with Trey, it was like, I'm going to get him before he get me. She don't trust men and she always feel like a man is going to eventually break the trust or step out of the relationship. So she just do it first. And Alicia just stupid. Trey was out there telling Streets, I was thinking about marrying her, and Streets was just laughing like it's not that serious. Basically saying she not somebody that he sees as wifey material. She over here telling Tammy, Streets makes me feel different than Trey does. I could talk to him about stuff that I can't talk to Trey about. I could relate to him more than I could relate to Trey. So you think you got this deep connection with Streets, and he just looking at you as a pass around and something to just hit every now and again. And the person, Trey, who actually loving you and taking you seriously and taking care of you financially, you effing him over. But she just feel like Trey is not as great in the bedroom as she would like. And she also said she feel like Trey acts as a father to her and he's always trying to lecture her. Like, it's not fun. So Tammy told Alicia, like, well, you hold Streets in a very high regard, but he out here saying you for the streets. Like, he don't care about you like you care about him. And she was like, oh, well, let's go check that because that's crazy. Yeah, now you mad and you gonna realize that you looking stupid. So Trey was telling Streets, like, I can't kick it with you no more. We can't do business or nothing. And then Tammy came and grabbed Streets and was like, I need to talk to you in the back with Alicia. So when he went in the back, he told Alicia, you are for the streets. And he was laughing in her face. And she was like, oh, okay, but you wasn't saying that last night when you was sucking my toes and eating my ass. And at this moment, I realized that Alicia is just like one of those young, dumb girls. And I think she's still in like her hood nigga phase. And she kind of like the bad boy. Because Tammy was like, okay, well, what was your intentions with Alicia, even though she pushed up on you? And he was like, I like the bitch. I like her. And she was like, you just said I was for the streets. What you mean? And Tammy was like, did you want to be with her? And he was like, what's my name? He started walking over to her and he was like, my name is Streets. Come here, girl. And she was like, oh, so stop being funny. And like they started hugging and stuff. I'm like, ew. So they kissing, he grabbing on her butt again, and Tammy just in shock, like, I am blown away. And she like, so we done with Trey, we both done with Trey, it's F Trey, and they just was kissing. So Trey came out there, he saw them arm in arm, and Streets was like, I don't know what to tell you, bro, I fuck with her, it is what it is. And Trey was like, okay, I'm out, this shit ain't even worth fighting for, I was holding both of them down, and I ain't got shit to lose, there's plenty of women out here, like, he could go pay somebody else bills, and buy somebody else purses. So 3 months later, we get the check-in with Trey and Tammy, and he said that he hasn't spoken to Streets or Alicia. He's actually talking to someone new. The only thing that Tammy didn't ask him that I would have been interested to know is, like, is he still seeing Alicia and Streets at all? Because Streets and Trey lived in the same apartment complex. So that could still be awkward even if he has moved on, Okay, so that was the end of episode 7. Now we're moving on to episode 8. So this episode starts with Tammy meeting RJ, and he said he's 32 years old, and he met his now fiance, Marissa, back in high school. He said that she was 1 year younger than him and she was struggling with some subjects in school. So he ended up being her tutor and that's how they connected. And he basically said that since they had met in high school, instead of him deciding to go off to college, because remember, he graduated a year before her, he chose to stay home and just start working for his family business, which is like a metal company and they make pump parts for the Navy. But then when Marissa graduated, she decided to go away for college and went several hours away. So Tammy was basically like, how did that make you feel? Because you decided to stay home and not go to college so that you could continue feeding this relationship that you thought had potential. But when it was time for her to finish school, she kind of just said, peace out. And he said he was taken aback and hurt. And they kind of decided that a long distance relationship would be too distracting. And he didn't want to hold her back from her dreams. So they decided to split up and he was heartbroken. He said he doesn't know if she dated anyone during that time that they were broken up and she was away at school, but he didn't because he was very hopeful that she would come back and they would continue their relationship. So he said after she graduated and I guess came back home, she contacted him and he said once they met up again and started dating again, it was like the spark never left and they just continued where they left off. They ended up buying a house together, adopting 2 dogs. They get engaged and they basically just start, their own little life and like family together. So Tammy's like, why are you here now? And he said, well, we've been engaged for 4 years. And he said that once their relationship started to pick back up, she started visiting some of her college friends who live hours away. And he said sometimes she would be gone for a few days and then it would be up to a week and she would just be like very distant during those times. He said they used to talk about planning their wedding. Those conversations have died out. And now when she goes to these trips to see her college friends, sometimes she'll come back home with designer bags and designer clothes. And she kind of just played it off by telling him that she had become a brand ambassador. But then he said one day he came home and there was a new luxury car in the driveway. And she tried to tell him that she was at the mall and she entered her name in one of those like win a free car sweepstakes and she won. And he's like, he don't really question the stuff that she does because she's like his dream girl and they've been together for 14 years. So he don't want to like put unnecessary tension on the relationship. And then also the fact that you've like never interacted or been around her college friends and y'all have known each other since high school. I think that that's also a red flag. Like if you've been dating somebody since high school and then they go to college and now y'all get back together when they come back home and they continuously hang out with these college friends, that means that you're a part of their family and those college friends are a part of their family. So at some point, they should want to integrate y'all because if y'all going to get married, those college friends would be at your wedding, right? So the next day, they start investigating Marissa. They see her leave the house with her and RJ's 2 dogs, and she has like this travel bag that she puts in the trunk. So she pulls into someone's house and she parks in their driveway. 2 hours later, there's no movement. So the lady who's investigating is like, I'm just going to get a hotel close by and check back here in the morning because it looks like she's spending the night over wherever she is. So the next day, the investigator gets back there and Marissa did spend the night at this house. The garage opens up and they see a white Beamer come out and the investigator's like, who the hell is this? But the windows are tinted. They can't see who it is. And she's like, well, I'm not going to follow this person because I have to stay here and watch Marissa's car, which hasn't moved yet. A little while later, Marissa comes out, gets into her car, and they follow her to a med spa. And 2 hours later, she comes out of the med spa with this guy, and he's dressed like he works there. He walks up to her car. But that's basically all we see. So then they follow her to this jewelry store. And when she goes in there, she has 2 rings that she wants to be cleaned. And the guy was like, when's the big day? And she was like, in a few weeks, hopefully. But remember, RJ said that their conversations of marriage have died down. So now they follow Marissa back to this mystery house where she spent the night at last night, and where they also saw someone come out of the garage with the white Beamer. So 2 hours later, the Beamer pulls into the garage, and the person who gets out is the same doctor who walked her out of the med spa earlier and took her to the car, which is this guy. So now we see Tammy, Ken, and RJ meeting up to go over the surveillance. So they start showing RJ all the surveillance. He's pretty clueless. He's like, I don't know whose house she's at. I've never seen the white Beamer. I don't know anything. He sees her go to the med spa and the doctor bring her out. He's like, I don't know who this doctor is. And that just looked like a little much for him to walk her out to the car and for them to be hugging and him giving her a kiss on the cheek. So then RJ sees the last piece of footage that we saw when the doctor came back to the house and they hugged and everything. So Tammy's like, obviously, this is the doctor's house and that's where she's been staying. So the next day, there's more footage that we never saw of them together at the house, both cars in the driveway. They're playing with the dogs, which are his dogs that him and her adopted together. And then he just sees them frolicking in the grass, kissing and making out, child. And Tammy basically told him, I think you've been with Marissa for 14 years, but I don't think she's been with you for 14 years. She probably was with other people when she went to college while you weren't, and she's probably been with other people in the in-between time as well. But let me show you this last video we got. So now we see her and this doctor guy at the chapel. And he's like, oh, this is my fiance, Marissa, and they're practicing walking down the aisle. And he was crying and he was just breaking down. And he was like, I need a second. Can I just walk away and come back? And Tammy was like, yeah, take as many seconds as you need, as long as you come back and say she on some bullshit. So when he came back, he was like, you know, our families are so intertwined. We have the house together. We have the dogs. I guess I just have to figure out what I'm going to tell everyone. And Tammy was like, you're going to tell them the truth. Marissa's a hoe. So he ends up choosing the team up, which has been a long time since somebody's done that. But he said at the end of the day, he doesn't know this guy. He's never seen this guy. So he doesn't know if this guy really knows anything about him. So he'd rather talk to him first and see what he knows. So the next day, they're going to meet up with the doctor. They found out that his name is Cody. And they asked him, so what do you really want to talk to Marissa about when you get the chance to do that? And he said, I just want to know why she's betraying me, why she led me on. And I want to let her know that everything she's been doing is completely unacceptable. So they get to Cody's med spa and RJ goes in there and he asks the receptionist, can I speak to Dr. Cody? I want to talk about booking an appointment. So when he comes out, RJ says, I'm Marissa's fiance of the last 4 years. And Cody goes, my Marissa? So it sounds like neither one of them knew about the other. So RJ asked Cody how long did he know Marissa for? And he said, we've been back together for a little over a year. And then the receptionist was like, should I call the cops? So Tammy and Ken got out the car like, we need to go get in there because she's talking about calling the police. So Tammy and Ken explained what was going on. And Cody was like, well, I don't plan on being on any show about whatever this is. And Tammy was like, I received that, but I feel like you need some of this information too. So if we could just sit down for 5 minutes so we could get some answers and some clarity, that would be great. So he agrees to sit down and Ken is like, you know, she's engaged to both of you. And Cody also said that he's known Marissa for about a decade in total. But like he already said, they reconnected about 1.5 years ago. And Cody was just like, I don't want to be vilified because I didn't know about any of this either. I've been lied to as well. And Tammy was like, well, you know what would be really helpful if you let us put some cameras up in here so that we could really see what's going on. So Cody ends up agreeing. They put the cameras up and he invites Marissa to come over so that he could give her a facial like his treat. So Ken, Tammy, and RJ are just sitting in the car waiting. 3 hours later, Marissa shows up. So RJ walks in and he confronts her and he's like, Marissa, who the F is this? And Cody gets up and he's like, yeah, tell him, who am I? And Marissa's like, well, probably nothing after this. Like, she knows she caught. And she was just sitting there like, oh, there's a lot that needs to be explained here. And I need to walk out of here. And she just got up and started walking out. And they were like, the lies are done. So Tammy and Ken got out because they like, she's not about to walk out and run away. So Tammy catches her at the door and lets her know she's on court in the act unfaithful. She immediately starts crying and runs into RJ's arms like, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. And she was just telling him how they have a lot to talk about. So Cody peeped all of that. So he came outside and he was like, okay, well, this is my place of business and we don't have to do this in front of here. I guess he like, shit, she's saying I'm nothing now. And, you know, she want to pursue this thing with RJ. We don't need to talk about it. So y'all can get the fuck from in front of my med spa. So he walked away and Tammy was like, keep him at bay. So Ken went to follow Cody back into the med spa. And Tammy, RJ, and Marissa stayed outside in the parking lot. And she said that she met Cody in college and that they reconnected about 1 year ago. And Cody was just in there with Ken like, I'm an honest guy. I don't deserve this. She talking about I'm nothing now anyway. And Tammy outside telling Marissa, RJ loves you. And she's like, yeah, I like him too. I want to marry him. You like him after 14 years? So she's telling RJ that she loves him more than Cody. But Cody, you know, money's not an object to him. Like, he gives her anything she wants. Mind you, she got both engagement rings on. But right now, she got the one that Cody gave her on her ring finger. So I guess what she does is she'll switch it. So when she's with RJ, she'll put his ring on her ring finger and put Cody's ring, just on another finger. You know how girls wear rings on multiple fingers. And then her dumbass says, well, I'm not married yet, so I'm not doing anything illegal. Basically saying like she's not committing adultery. Okay, but you're still being a hoe. So Tammy takes her to the side and says, really explain to me, how did you end up engaged to both of these guys? And she said, well, RJ is just a given. That's the guy that my grandfather gave his blessing to and approved of before he passed away. Our families are very well connected, blah, blah, blah. And she said with Cody, it's more just the financial stability and like she don't have to work if she don't want to and stuff like that. And she said as far as her past traumas, she does have like a deep fear of financial instability. So that draws her to Cody. So she asking Tammy, is RJ still here? I don't want him to leave without us talking. And Tammy was like, yeah, he's still here. He ain't going to leave without saying bye to me. And then it cuts to Ken, and now he has RJ and Cody in the room with him. And Kim was like, well, you see, as soon as we came in here, she basically turned her back on Cody. And RJ was like, well, she could have easily done the same thing to me. And Kim was like, who knows? Maybe she did do it in secret behind your back. But Cody was like, no, she's actually never said anything about him. Like good, bad, he's never been mentioned. So RJ was like, well, the best thing you could do is just leave us alone. So I guess he's planning on still staying with Marissa. And Cody basically said, you want her, you could have her. Congratulations, she's all yours. So Marissa came in there talking all slow and stupid, apologizing to Cody, telling him it was a big mistake and it's a big issue on her part and she needs to seek therapy. And he was just laughing in her face because he know, like, girl, you basically was just using me for my money. And Kim was like, I'm not saying you're not genuine, but a lot of people will jump to saying they need therapy when they get caught. But an hour ago when you were doing what you were doing, you didn't feel like you needed therapy. And she was like, well, I don't want to lose RJ and he's treated me so good and we've known each other for so long. And she was just crying. Cody was laughing. He was like, those are fake tears. He said it's a big load of hogwash. When was you going to stop the ruse? When me and you was walking down the aisle at the wedding that we was planning for a couple weeks from now? And she basically also revealed that it wasn't only the money, but she felt like her intimacy was better with Cody and that her and RJ's intimacy was starting to be lacking. And she said, I don't feel like you can marry somebody that you don't enjoy having sex with. So Cody just laughing again. And she's like, me and RJ's intimacy was good, but then now it's like we're just best friends. And she just starts telling RJ he's the person that she really wants to be with. He's the father of her dogs. They can't separate the dogs. And obviously it was confirmed that all of the designer clothes, bags, and the car came from Cody. But RJ still says that he's willing to try to work on things and fight for his relationship with Marissa. But he knows that it's going to take a while for them to get back to the point where he trusts her enough to get married. So she goes and starts hugging RJ. And he's like, first things first, you're going to give back all the gifts he gave you. The car, the clothes, the bags, and everything. And she's like, oh no, I want the ring. And he's like, you're not keeping the ring that was an engagement ring for the guy that you cheated on me with. So Ken and Tammy was like, listen, we done. You want to stay with her? This is what you're going to deal with. And they asked Cody, clearly you're done with her, but do you want to take the gifts back or not? And he said, we'll figure it out. It seemed like he didn't really care. RJ and Marissa both delusional, talking about this is a testament to their love and commitment to one another. And that she's happy that he did this because they can start to repair all the issues that were already in their relationship. So 3 months later, when Tammy checks in on RJ, he's talking about him and Marissa are taking a short break to let things settle. She's probably fucking around right now because she's single. While you're still sitting here being faithful when you're not in a relationship with her and you guys are on a break. That was your mistake the first time when she went to college. But he said they still see each other a few times a week to walk the dogs, and this is still a relationship that he wants to pursue. So Tammy basically asked him why, and he said they had a bunch of deep talks and she was very regretful and remorseful for the things she did, but she did not give the gifts back. Tammy asked him, did he learn anything about himself from this experience? He said that he learned that him and Marissa's relationship was stronger than he ever thought. And she was like, that's what you learned from this experience. And he said yes. And she said, if that's what you feel like you've learned, then who am I to say that's not what it is? If you want to keep getting ran over, by all means, have at it. So that was the end of episode 8. And I will see y'all next week for episode 9 of Caught in the Act Unfaithful. Bye.